Welcome to I Heart Geek. And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. We haven't given you guys a new show in a while, so we had to. And we are talking about perhaps the greatest animated TV series ever. We're talking about the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. You guys can debate me later on if I'm right on that or not. I'm Dub. I'm here with Skeeter. We're here with Griffin. How are you guys doing? Miss seeing you. Miss talking to y'all.
Oh, I'm good. Very busy, but very, very good all at the same time.
How you doing, Griffin?
Very, I would say same, very busy. Just getting
Saving
through it.
lives?
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, learning how to.
Be the real Batman.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Okay, so let's jump right on. We're talking about the late 90s series of Justice League, not the Super Friends, even though there is definite roots to the Super Friends in this Justice League. But what do you guys, I mean, what's the appeal of Justice League? Why would I say it's the greatest? I don't know if you guys think it's that way or not. I feel like it's even better than X-Men. That's saying something because I think X-Men was great. I think Justice League was better. What do you guys think about kind of where Justice League sits in the hierarchy? Start with you, Skeeter.
So I'm going to go with this. So, and I'm just going to say it. Marvel fans, hate me if you want to. X-Men was a cartoon. Fully, it was a cartoon. The animated series of Batman, the Justice League Unlimited, completely an animated series. Everything about it was class above of
Really?
X-Men.
Okay.
I just think the stories, you got a comic book on TV, like full on every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
It did.
that's
Yeah, it was very true to the Justice League comics that we all loved growing up because it wasn't just a, well, this is this team doing stuff. They gave you a little bit of everything. You had time travel. You had the weird mystical stuff. You had westerns. You had everything in there. You had date night stuff. You had noir. You had mystery. There was just something special about this series. What about you, Griffin? What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, aside from trying to watch it on like Fox Kids, whenever I
Mm-hmm.
could, like growing up, I go back and watch it like annually, like
Yeah.
once a year, just because it's everything I want in Justice League. And that's what makes it special. I mean, I would love for them to get there maybe in a live action format, but not to take anything away from this. But I mean, obviously saying what everybody else has already said, I think the cast makes it for me.
Oh yeah.
Not just because of the
Conroy.
like the acting, not just because of that, but like it made me love these characters in a way that
Mm-hmm.
they are my definitive characters. Like the Flash, Wally West. This specific version is my Flash. It's my favorite
Yeah.
Flash. It's my favorite version. And like John Stewart is my favorite Green Lantern, not because I read any comics or did any of that. It's because of Phil Lamar and his performance in this show,
Mm-hmm.
and that really stuck out to me. And
Well,
the storytelling is amazing.
well, I think a lot of this has to do with Andrea Romero being just the in- incredibly talented voice director, voice caster that she is. She knew what she had, and she gave it to us. I mean, just perfectly. Now, and with the definitive characters, here's what was so beautiful about that. My Barry is my Flash because that's what I grew up reading. However, they made everything so acceptable to love this Wally because they made him different. And I'm a Hal Jordan guy, but the John Stewart I learned to love because of this. I never really got John Stewart. I didn't like Guy Gardner before this. I've Kyle was okay, but Hal is my guy. John Stewart, they okay, cool. I was 100% in, and it never felt like they were forcing anything but comic books down your throat, if that makes sense.
It totally does.
Yeah.
It's 100% what what it needed to be for everything. I mean, there were things that, now as an adult watching it, in my younger years, now watching it as an adult, there are some things that I'm like, man, you know what? Where's my Superman at? Like, where's
Yeah.
my Superman? Like,
Destroying the entire
you
planet. Yeah.
yeah, like Superman's getting whooped, Batman's getting whooped. Like
Mhm.
they're getting hands put on them, and you're like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it was just good.
Well, and they did the what a lot of writers can't do with especially with characters like Superman is they have to make him weaker in order to make the story more interesting. They never did that with this series.
Right.
Everybody was as powerful as they are
Mhm.
without any yeah, they didn't have to mess with the character. Now, this is what makes me happy, and this is what got me started with wanting to talk about this. Apparently, James Gunn is making the new Justice League. The whole DC universe now is based on this. Now I have faith in everything. And where I think a lot of that's going to come from is the Justice League Unlimited stuff, which we'll get to in a minute. But Justice League Unlimited gave us all the side characters. You had the superhero, the super team right there. I mean, Flash, Green Lantern, Superman,
Wonder
Hawk Girl,
Woman,
and Wonder Woman.
Hawk
I mean,
Girl.
just
Yep.
the team. Oh, and Marvin the Martian. Say that. But I mean, but Justice League Unlimited gave us 70% of the story was everybody else without forgetting about them. And I think that's a lot of what he was talking about. So I'm getting really excited for the this iteration we're gonna see because he can mess with all these characters without messing with Superman.
Yep.
Don't mess with our holy of holies. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you can mess around with Peacekeeper, I mean, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So who do you guys like as far as the side characters? And I want to throw mine first, which is Rorschach. I mean, the question. Oh, every story they gave him was so good. And his love interest with the Huntress. I cared so much about these characters. I'm like, I want to follow them on date night. This is awesome. And I didn't care about the question before the show came out. I'd read a few comments, but I didn't care. I now care about this character so much. Let me hear some of your guys' favorite characters, especially the side ones. You can give me the main ones, but with this, especially the side ones. Let's start with you, Griffin.
You took it right there. Like I was literally that whole like the relationships that, and especially in like a kids show. I mean, if you're a kid, you're like, okay, yeah, like that, I get it. But when you're an adult, you're just like, it hits so much different because you're like, dang, that's like that hit me in the feels. And literally, like with that, I was gonna say the question, like in the whole scene, he's just sitting there like, no, like you don't want to, like you don't want me to, like remove, like Rorschach my face,
Don't
my,
take
my
off my
mask,
face. Yeah.
don't take it off. And she was just like, nah, I don't care. Like, and she walks up and closes the obstructs the view, and so I was just like, that stuff hits hard in storytelling,
Yeah, it
especially
does.
like it's a lot of like the and not to take away from the side, but like the John Stewart and the Hawk Girl story. Like that's
went
great.
on for 4 seasons.
Exactly. Like it took its time. It wasn't like,
And
oh,
it
one
never
episode ran
concluded.
in
And
the
I loved that.
yep.
Which is what a great comic should do.
Yeah, yep. Always, yeah.
What about you, Skeeter?
Well, for the longest time, I mean, I hadn't watched in a while, and then all of a sudden we got Titans, right, on HBO Max, and which is in part is pretty awesome. But on that show, we got Hawk and Dove.
Yeah.
In obviously a different
are
iteration.
Are they the female versions, or are they are they Dawn?
It's a male and a female. It's the guy that came out as Reacher. He was Aquaman in Smallville, things like that.
Gotcha.
But he comes out, as Hawk, and you had Dove, who was, a blonde and just awesome. And I was like, oh man, that reminds me of Unlimited when we got Hawk and Dove. But and still this power team, like who they were kind of in secret, and they were kind of like that vigilante role,
But
off on the
not,
side,
yeah.
but not. But that's what I've always loved. Every vigilante piece of our favorite comic book characters just rolled out in these side characters.
Yeah.
Like, who is this person? Like in the first in Justice League when you got Copperhead, like as a villain. I'm like, seriously? This dude is wearing a snake costume, and then all of a sudden he flicks his tongue out, and you're like, this dude has a snake tongue, like, and his eyes are slotted. Like,
Yeah.
what? So just good. That's so awesome when they can pull you in like that by these offshoot characters.
And let me hit on the Hawk and Dove thing, which I think is really, again, not a comic that I ever really got into. When they relaunched it, I read the new ones and it just didn't do it for me. But this Hawk and Dove I really loved. And then it turns out that Dawn died. Now, of all the characters in When Blackest Night, when they brought everybody back, he's the only one they didn't bring back. Why? Because he was the only one at peace. And that just, after watching that episode, everything I needed to know about the character, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, I had the feels for it with a character that I don't care about.
Right? They did the same thing in Titans with him.
Yeah.
Like they got to a bridge that was blown out, and everybody else had to jump through the jump to get back because he saved everybody, and he got everybody there. They all jumped, and they were like, "No, come on!" And the evil was coming up behind him, and he was like, "No, I'm cool. I'm good. I'll stay here."
Yeah.
That was boom. I was like, wow. It so aligned. It was just so good.
Such a good side character that again, this is what this show did, is took characters that no one really cared about, so James Gunn, this might be perfect, took characters that nobody cared about, and like, I care about these characters now, every single one of them. Stinking vigilante you cared about. Nobody cares. There's no such thing as a good vigilante comic book. Not one. But growing up, that was my kid's favorite character. He loved Vigilante. He wore the bandana and all that when he was watching it as a little kid. He loved that character. That is, to me, just such brilliant storytelling on how they did that. Just made characters that just pop. So what I want to hit on is, I'd like to talk about, if we're going to talk about Justice League, let's talk about some of our favorite episodes, and we'll just kind of keep going around, and we all, I'm sure, have lists. First one I want to hit on is the episode called Legends, and that is when some of the Justice League end up going over into another universe, and they meet with what looks like a JSA, all like cheap versions of the characters, and it's some alien controlling a kid's mind, blah blah blah. But that is such a fun episode because without having to do the licensing of JSA, they gave us all these characters, because I don't need to see another. I don't want to see Alan Scott Green Lantern in this. I don't. They gave us, Green Guardsman, whatever it was. And I loved how they no, these are the comics I read as a kid. This is what inspired me to be a superhero. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. What did you guys remember that episode at all?
I believe that's the one where Flash has to outsmart Batman, I think, the other Batman, right? And he has to
I'm trying to think. I think that's what happens.
He basically slows or speeds up his heart rate so fast where it looks like he flatlines.
Yeah.
And the other Batman freaks out and runs in, and he knocks him out.
That's a good one.
Because he's pinned, because Batman's pinned up against himself. Like, there's nothing he can do that the other one doesn't know.
They use that twice. They also use that in the in the last episode when Brainiac makes replicas of all the superheroes, they were having to fight
Okay.
themselves,
Okay. Yeah.
and then they made him switch, like
Right.
just switch partners, and then that's the only way they could take him out. I think that was a great call on
Mhm.
that. Okay, Griffin, let's hear one of your favorites. We're just gonna keep going
One
around for a while.
one of my favorites, and a lot of two-parters in these series,
Almost
but
all of them.
well deserved. And they're arcs. Like it's great. But my one that stands out to me, and there's a few, but the one that I always watch, and I remember the first time watching it I always forget the plot, but it's always surprising and it's so good, is in Blackest Night Part 1 and 2. And
First time you see
it's
all
such
the core. Yep.
it's such and like I wasn't like growing up the biggest Green Lantern fan or anything, but the storytelling in itself, every time I watch it, it's one episode like I can't skip. Like I have to sit down and watch it because in the first like 15 minutes I'm hooked and I forget completely the rest of like what happens or why he's brought to trial. And then
Yeah.
I believe, even though I've seen it like 5 times, I still think like, oh, he's guilty. Like he did this, like, cause he believes it. And it's just my favorite, like it's probably my favorite in the entire series, those 2 episodes.
Really?
There's a lot of
Wow.
great ones, but there was something about it, like, when I rewatch it, you'd think it would ruin it for you, but I'm like, it just hypnotizes me every time because 'cause I'm so, like, brought in. Because everybody's like, "What's going on? Why is John, like why are they taking him? Why isn't he fighting back?
Yeah.
Like, we gotta get him out." And the whole league comes together because they're like, "No, like, we can't accept this. This isn't right." And you have the whole core around, and even then they're like, I mean, he did it, like it,
Yeah.
we don't know what to say, like,
And
so it
what I'm hearing everybody's talk about is the emotional connection we're getting with these, which I think is
yeah,
there's no reason, but it's a cartoon and you're so
yeah,
emotionally connected. It's
mhm,
beautiful. Skeeter, give us one.
So, Justice League, season one, way back, The Enemy Below, part one and two. This is when they go get Aquaman to try and do the peace treaty between the surface and and everybody in Atlantis. And he's like, and so he finally decides that he's going to go do this. Aquaman does. No secret, Aquaman, hands down, my favorite superhero ever in the history of ever.
Because he
Don't
talks to
care
fish.
because he talks to fish. Like, but I am like, I just, it's Orm. It's the way that, oh, my brother's out. Okay, I got this. And he tries to take over once again. It's Pinky in the brain all day long. Try to take over the world just like we do every day. Like he's gone. He tries to do what he
Mhm.
does. He goes back. He the it in the second part, like the connection is Orm takes Aquaman's son, and he stabs the side of the rock and hangs the son in his blanket, and like sticks freaking Aquaman to the wall, to the side of
So
the
dark.
mountain. And
Yeah.
he's falling towards the lava. And what does he do? Takes off his emblem off his belt and cuts his own hand off to freaking
Mhm.
save his son. Like, now there's a whole different connection.
Yeah. And I don't think we see the Momoa Aquaman without this Aquaman.
Yep. Nope.
The long
This,
haired,
that's
cooler.
that was pretty metal. That was pretty metal. That's pretty
Oh yeah.
hardcore.
yeah. Like, he pulls that bad boy off, and you see him look at his hand and look at the thing, and he's like, "Rah!" And then the next thing you know, you hear, his wife say, "Your hand," and then it goes away. You're like, "What? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
That's a great call for an episode.
yeah."
And I'm actually looking forward to rewatching that now. Now I really want to see that one again. Now I want to hit one that I've talked about it on this show several times. This is the biggest tearjerker, I think, in without anybody dying. This is the biggest tearjerker I've ever seen in a comic book, which was For the Man Who Has Everything. This is when Superman gets given a gift for his birthday, and it's called the Black Mercy, and it gives you in your mind exactly what you want as you die. So he has to literally, I mean, you see what's going on in his mind, and he's on Krypton with Lois Lane, and everything is saved, and everything is like the way he's always wanted it. It's like, oh, and he has to literally say, look at his son, who you can tell he loves, and says, I'm sorry, you're not real. I have to go. I love you more than anything. I'm like, oh, so, and then with the Batman, and oh my gosh, yeah, that episode is something really special. I think. Griffin, give me another one.
It's like that episode reminds me of Perchance to Dream
Mm-hmm.
and Batman the Animated Series, where
Oh, very
Bruce
much.
lives out his life, and it's it's so good. That's what made it remind me of. It's I feel like for these episodes, it's a lot of for me. It's like these certain aspects that these
Yeah.
characters go through, because it shows it's not just like it's an ensemble, but all these characters hit certain beats. They're going through their own things, even if you like they'll focus on the character, but then the next episode they have a different conflict, and
Mm-hmm.
those characters are still going through like
Yeah.
that carries on. Even if it's not the main they don't need to take a second to have a conversation to remind the audience, oh, they're still going through this trial, like personal
Yeah.
trial. Like we just know.
Something else we hit with that, and I'll let you finish, but
Yeah.
something else we hit with that on this show, they don't give you all the stories they talk about. They talk about, well, what happened when the Justice Lords took over the Earth. We never saw that on this show, but it makes sense. We get it,
Yep.
and it's just like reading a comic book. You don't have every book, but you get it when they say something.
Yep.
Like they talk about the past, you still get it. It's the secret to writing a good Justice League comic book. You
Hmm.
don't know all the stories. They just
Nope.
kind of assume you're going to play along. I'm
Yeah.
in the world. I get it. I don't need to know everything. I miss years of blocks in here. Cool. Wow. Yeah. So sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No.
off, but that's
It literally, yeah. I mean, that's really what it's about, and it's those long what you were talking about. It's like those long stares with like Kevin Conroy's Batman, like in the show when a character does something and he just and all the rest of the ensemble's like, wait, why? To this certain character, and you just see like Batman just staring, and he'll make up an excuse for them, even though he doesn't need to, but you know why? Like it's
yeah.
that connection. Um, but my another episode is probably like my other favorite is the Injustice for All part one and two. It's just
Mm,
pretty good. It's just it's the Injustice Gang, and it's brought by Luther. Now, the reason why I like that it's some of my favorite is because the storytelling. It's just a fun. You got all the villains and the rogues of certain of
yeah.
the Justice League. That's not. I love that, but honestly, it hits me differently because of Luther, and finally they've created. And like I said, I don't know. I'm sure they've done this in the comics, but haven't I'm not the biggest Superman like comic book reader, but literally like after Luther is being I'm reading the synopsis right now just because I wanted to get this right. He's after being diagnosed with an incurable case of kryptonite poisoning, Lex Luthor blames Superman and seeks to destroy the superhero and the rest of the Justice League by gathering a team of powerful supervillains. Like when I first saw that, I was like, that is genius. He's around it so much because he's so bent on destroying Superman. He gets a poisoning that he can't do anything about. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing about the team is they're trying to stop Luther in the Injustice League, but Superman is trying to save him too. Like because that's
Yeah.
just like who he is. And I love that. He's not rooting and like Christian Bale Batman, I don't have to save you. He's not that. He's like, Luther, like, come on, think. Like, use your head. But Luther's so stubborn and he hates him because he's everything that he's not and he wants to be. At least
Yeah.
that's what I get from it.
That's a really good take from it. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but we saw the Hall of Injustice for the first time in Justice Friends, but they never gave us an explanation of why all these guys work together. It just okay, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us an explanation, which I think was just great, and they didn't. I'm so glad they didn't try to slide it in first season or second season. I yeah, it was towards the end of the series. I'm like, perfect time. Because it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
Skeeter, give us another one, bud.
So, yeah, Injustice for All was that's on my list at number 2, and I just just to kind of back Griffin 100%, like you see this different story, you see, and this is where Marvel and DC completely differ. The
Mm-hmm.
relationship between the villain and the hero are different. Think of
That's an interesting take.
every villain versus the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
What do? They're hell bent on stopping them and killing them. That's it. We're going to end them. However, we have to do it or send them back to wherever they came from. To where Joker and Batman, Superman, Lex Luthor, like you don't. Everybody has this different relationship where all of a sudden Lex Luthor's dying of this incurable thing. Superman's like, let's figure it out. Let's do this. Let's get together. Who shows up? The entire rogues for every single, person in the show. And for every hero is their rogue. I connected to it because of, Solomon. Because here comes Grundy, stomping through there.
Oh, and
And this
his
is
arc.
where
Oh my gosh.
you see you see superheroes getting smashed.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting tossed around, and then you see, oh wait, Wonder Woman, you got to go back home and figure out your relationship with your mom. What the heck just happened? Like, and there's a connection there, but I really think like though that put it together for me. I mean, even though almost every episode's a two-part episode in Justice League, you it just they put it together so well in this battle, and it's the
Yeah.
good and evil all day long, and they're just going to beat each other until everybody stops. And the fact that it was Injustice and where they end right back up,
Yeah.
in Arkham, done again. There you go. So I loved it. It's just so perfect.
Okay. I'm gonna hit one more. And that's the greatest story never told. This is the definition of a Justice League comic book. There is this huge story going on. It's a huge battle going on. And we see like just quick glimpses of it. And then you get this great side story with Booster Gold. Who cares about Booster Gold? I know I don't. Oh my gosh, I cared about Booster Gold on this story, and he gets no credit for it. And I loved how they told that story. It's another one of those just kind of like, is that how, am I sad after this? Am I happy for the guy? I mean, he's still a scumbag, but just so good. You know what I'm talking about with that
Mm-hmm.
Booster Gold episode. Give me
Mm-hmm.
one more, or you can talk on that one, whichever one you want to do, Griffin.
Well, I hope we get a lot of that. I mean, I think that Gunn is doing a Booster Gold. I don't know if it's a series or if it's a film. I'm not sure, but I think it was a part of his chapter one of the gods and monsters,
Oh yeah.
um, which I think is great. That's perfect. That's right up his alley. For me, I think another. This show hits a lot of points and it goes to a lot of places. But the one thing that I felt DC always had over Marvel, but I mean Marvel's doing it now in their entertainment big time because of the films, is a lot of the. I mean, for me, like this show was the first to do it. Was the connected universe, and I'm bringing all
Very,
these
very
characters
much.
together.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. They're all DC did first. Yes, like this is like the first, but they really. I mean, now with I felt like the one thing that DC had over Marvel and their chance to get the jump on it was the multiverse. before Marvel incorporated in so many different storylines now. Like they have so
Yeah.
many different explanations for the multiverse and how it works.
Ugh.
But DC, it was one linear, like, okay, there is a multiverse. There are different realities, different worlds, different Earths, different versions of this. And one thing, even though it doesn't like touch on it too much, it's a linear timeline, but it's the very end. It's the once in the future thing, part one and two.
Oh,
And
yes.
it brings in, not just because it brings in Batman Beyond, but it ties up a lot of not loose ends that we didn't know, but things we hoped would happen. And it's like they still don't tell you, especially with like
The
Green
sun.
Lantern's son.
Yes.
And
Oh,
he's all like John Stewart walks up, he's like, "Who's your mom?" He's all, "Really? Is it
who do
that
you
hard?
think?
Like, who do you think it is?" You know, it's stuff like that. And the both Batman's meeting, he's like, "I'm surprised I'm still alive." He's like, "Don't be. We got work to do." So it's really good. And the fact that, even though that's where it ended off, the point that I'm getting at is this show touched everything. Like
Yeah.
it did all of it. This is like an amazing blueprint for storytelling that I really do want James Gunn's world and vision to be the best it can be. But something I really want to see is the same feeling and the same storytelling I got from this show and a
Yeah.
lot of other shows like it, because I feel like studios are afraid to just throw it in these characters without having that. They're like too afraid to sorry about that. They're too afraid to maybe I'll continue. They're too afraid to tell these stories and just to throw Batman in there and Superman in there and not
Hmm.
let the like these cartoons. Batman just shows up.
Yeah,
We
for
know
no
who
reason.
Batman
Yeah.
is. We're good. Okay,
You
we
don't you
got it.
don't
He's
get their
cool.
origins anymore. There's not
Right.
one origin story in this.
No. And we all get it. We all know. Okay, here we go. We know what they're like. Batman's the brooding guy. I want to see that confidence portrayed on screen
Yeah.
with this. And I know James. I know. Like James Gunn is really going to bring up those lesser known characters, which I am excited for. But when it comes to the A-listers, the Batman, the Superman, the Wonder Woman, I really just they don't have to be the center of attention. But when they are there, I would love to have a reminiscent feeling of like
Importance.
of this,
Yeah.
not just it's Batman. Okay, like we're hammering this in. It's Batman, and he knows Superman, but we're never gonna show them on screen together. But they're in the universe. We might in a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Just have them plop in the build the universe. Like
Yeah.
have Superman, have Batman follow a criminal in Metropolis, like in the show. Like in
Yeah.
Justice League, Superman's like, "What are you doing?" He's all, "I was following, these guys here. You mind cleaning this up?" And he bounces. And Superman's like, "Well, I guess I gotta clean this up."
Yep.
Like it's those things. It's not to be so afraid to take those chances because that's what this is about. And I feel like they're very much like, these are our A-listers, these make us money. Like we need to make them grandiose. Like they gotta be the center of attention when it's not that it's not that heavy.
No.
Like you just they're on their own. Like you see Superman on screen, that's enough for me. Like that's Superman. Like we
Yeah.
don't need let's have these characters interact. That's what this show did for me, is because it's like I feel so comfortable and so at home when I watch this that every time I watch the movies, and I love Snyder's Justice League, and I do, but that's something I really hope to see. Is I hope to see a Superman that just represents Superman, and Batman that represents Batman, and just they represent these things. They don't have to go so
No, they
deep
don't have
with
to go
it
deep.
because we know. Yeah.
Well, okay, and I want to actually put into words what I think you're talking about on this.
Yeah.
You want a Superman that you loved as a kid and that
Yeah.
every kid loves. You
Yeah.
want a Batman that you loved as a kid that every kid loves, not a
Yeah.
dark, brooding Batman that's
Mhm.
depressed.
Mhm.
You want a Batman that a kid loves.
Yeah.
And this proved you can do it with
Mhm.
adult material
Yeah.
that a kid will love. And that's the only way we're going to keep this beautiful thing called comic books going still. And
Yep.
I'm hoping they understand that, because I think this is really the definition of why the comic book industry is dying, because they're not made for kids anymore. And
No.
this gave you a lot of adult material, but not one thing that would be offensive to a kid.
No.
Does not take away any childhood innocence. Not one time.
No.
Even these deep, deep, deep stories that they give us, there's not one time that childhood innocence is taken. They kill a baby in this with Aquaman's kid, and it doesn't kill a kid's innocence,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yep.
yeah, that was very well put, Griffin. Okay, Skeeter, you got one more, and then we're
Yeah,
gonna kind
so
of
I'm
close
gonna
up.
I'm gonna lay this one up and let you knock it down, Dub. But I'm gonna lead off with my number four overall, which is kid stuff.
So good.
Season one, episode three of Unlimited. They go back to it's I think
They're
what was it,
9 or 10.
Mordred?
Yes,
Mordred
Mordred.
sends them back to when they're like 8 or 9 years old. Dude, straight up, Junior, like Griffin loves it when I call him Junior Justice, but you know, you guys just said it. Like, give me my kids, give me something that's good for kids and good for adults at the same time. This one is everything that is.
Mm-hmm.
You have their kids,
Yeah,
but they have the same responsibilities that they did as the
but they're still
grown.
in. But they're innocent too.
And yes, it is incredible. Like, I love the art. Like, this is where me as a kind of a closet art guy, like, I love the artistry, the just the animation is beautiful. This one, they knock it out of the park. I mean, 100%. The art, they're it's just perfect, and the
Yeah, with the
entire
slightly
episode is great.
oversized heads, the slightly oversized
Yep,
eyes, very
yep,
much the Saturday morning feel instead of
yep.
what they give us normally, which is more of a adult X-Men type feel.
Yeah, but we got this, and it was just this great. It was very cartoony,
Mm-hmm.
but it hit every level. It hit the expectation of every single other show with these 8 and 9 year old heroes.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's so
so
light and so happy until the very end when they take the baseball bat and just slam you in the head
yep,
with Mordred as well. He's still going to live forever, but now he doesn't have eternal youth anymore. So he's like
yes,
500 years old, drooling, like, oh, oh,
yes.
what am I supposed to do with this?
Oh,
It's so
Mm-hmm.
so
good.
good, so awesome, so awesome.
So okay, last question I'm going to ask you guys before we close up. How would you, for someone who hasn't watched Justice League, the animated series, how would you sell them to watch it? Let's start with you on this one, Skeeter.
I mean, so honestly, we get a lot of people in our world, in our world, of geekdom, that, oh, well, I'm a Marvel fan, and X-Men, 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 and they're just pushing it.
And I
And
think X Men was great, and
and X-Men was
we will
great.
all say that.
It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. But if you love if you have a genuine love for superheroes, for the hero aspect of, yeah, a hero gets knocked down, but a true hero gets back up and fights for justice, fights for good, fights for everything that the Justice League fights for. And you get just that. If you want a full immersion, like, check this out. Just watch the Justice League. Check it out. Go back to the old stuff, not the old stuff. Meanwhile, back at the Hall of
Nothing wrong with
Justice.
those, though. I
No,
enjoy
nothing
those,
wrong with the dude. That
but
that
it's not the
animation
same. But it's not
makes
the
you
same.
happy. I'm not gonna. Does it
Oh
not make
yeah.
you happy?
Oh yeah.
So, like, but
Zoinks.
this stuff gives you that level of, like, when you're done, you're kind of pumped up. Like, you're, dude, that was amazing. That was a great episode. Let's watch another one.
Yeah,
It just hooks you. Every bit of it hooks you. From the hero to the villain to the damsel in distress. It's just beautiful.
it's true storytelling.
Yes.
Griffin, what about you?
Yeah, I mean everything that you guys said. Not to to taper off that, but I mean, really, if you're, I'd say, Dad, if you're a fan of if you're a fan of superheroes and you like that, you want to be taken away and this great storytelling, as you said, Doug, like it's really for me, if I were to sell somebody on the show, I would say, do you not want to waste your time watching something that doesn't matter? Because there's always something to learn in this show. There's always a lesson that they
Mm-hmm.
teach you, not just on a character
G.I. Joe way,
basis,
yeah.
but on a morale and your morality. And not to go so deep, but it's a show that hits all the levels if you want it to. There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. It doesn't smack you in the head. It's literally what you want to take from it, and you have that option. Not a lot of other shows do that. Not
Yeah.
a lot of other shows. It's either they are all about like hitting you with those big things, those big
Mm-hmm.
revelations, like CW's Flash. It's so drawn out, and not trying to hit on it, but it's like you can't figure it out for yourself. You can't handle it for yourself. By halfway through the episode, you get the trials of Barry that he has to go through every single episode. And by the end, he's like, I learned my lesson. It means this, and this. Well, in Justice League Unlimited, Justice League Unlimited, I would say, is more for people who feel like outcasts.
Yeah.
They don't get it. Like the Superman. I'm not the Superman. I'm not the Batman. I'm not the Wonder Woman. Okay, maybe you are more like the Question. Maybe you're more like a Huntress. Maybe your morality is kind of like fluid. You don't know. So you want to watch something that you more identify with. I would say that not everybody can identify with Spider-Man. Not everybody, even though I would like to say like with X-Men, it's an amazing show and it has an amazing message. But I feel like those are dealing with fantastic but real problems.
Mm-hmm.
The Justice League is fantastical problems that are handled in a real with real human emotions. No matter if you're an alien from Krypton, a brooding, rich person, or an Amazonian like goddess, like it doesn't matter. You still feel what they're feeling. You still understand, and it gives you hope. Like that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing that the show does is that it gives you hope.
And this show does one thing that I can't say about any other animated series except maybe Batman, the animated series. It's all canon. It's all. I mean, no one's gonna get mad. It's like, yeah, this happened in comics. This is cool. They don't then try to up it to change the problems and change the social setting or anything else. It is comic canon, and it's perfect. So, with that being said, it's on HBO Max. You can watch every episode. I highly recommend it. Otherwise, buy the DVD or Blu-ray. Save it to your computer because you never know what's going to happen. Just one of the best animated shows ever. And you're never going to be sorry on this one. Check out the website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. He's calm. We paid extra for it. Go to the Facebook, go to the Twitter, talk to us. We do talk back. And until next time, I'm Dub. I'm here with Skeeter. We're here with Griffin. Keep on geeking on, guys. I'll see you next time.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.